Welcome to the third Restructuring video series with me, Luke Venner, and Jack Callow. Hi Jack, you well?
Very well, Luke. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. So we're talking, as we touched upon, very briefly in a separate video, we're talking share sale versus trade and asset sale, aren't we? Just give us a bit of a, paint us a bit of a picture as to when this might be appropriate, first of all.
So the first thing to say, I guess a bit of a caveat, this is not a how-to video, just an awareness piece.
Yeah.
The series is aimed at considering solvent liquidations, and it's important that we sort of step back and before we get to that point. And that scenario very much looks like a business owner or business owners that are ready to move on from their business that they've running probably for many years, may well have built up themselves, and it's what happens next. And I think the first thing I'd like to say is plan. These are decisions you don't want to hit you suddenly, and conversations 10 years out from a target date to move on, retire or sell or whatever it looks like for you is never too early.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed.
Just to keep it really simple, I'm just going to paint a couple of scenarios. So consider an individual that owns a company, an individual that owns a company that owns a company. Mm-hmm. So you've got a trading company and a holding company in that scenario. And then consider whether we go for a share sale or a sale of a trade and assets. The business, all the assets within the business that are needed to continue that trade that's generated value over the years.
So you're not selling the shell, the limited company, you're just selling the contents of the company effectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or elements of the company. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when we consider those scenarios and we say to ourselves, okay, do I want to sell my shares, or do the holding company shares, or do I want to sell the trading business assets? There are a couple of things that there are hundreds of considerations to be made.
Yeah,
there are a couple of
but
the main
considerations.
So the first one is, who are we going to sell to? And a really obvious one is competition. You'll know them, they'll probably know you. Mm-hmm. It's an easy one to sort of sense out as to whether there's appetite there, and whether a deal can be done at the value that you would like it to be done at.
But it needs to be, I guess, just one thing to add there, is it needs to be done, with structure and obviously, confidentiality, doesn't it?
Of course, yeah. I mean,
it's quite a sensitive.
It's will you buy my business, but please don't know that I want to buy my business.
Yeah.
I'm selling my business is a
That's
great
right, yeah.
It's a great scenario to that's where advice is really crucial, and there's lots of good advice out there. Investors, that's a target buyer for you in a scenario where you want to sell your shares or your trade assets, and that's about the return. Is the business delivering the return that it needs to attract that investment buyer? Or you might want to consider your management team that you may have developed and has grown with the business over the last few years. Are they in a position to take it on?
They know it inside out.
Yeah.
It's a big plus, isn't it?
So much knowledge gets retained.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really, really critical point as well. And this is where the pre-planning and the strategic advice early on reaps its own dividends, is that how crucial are you as a business owner to the business continuing? Because that's where you get down the rounds of being asked to stay on for a period of time to smooth the transition, to pass on knowledge. At any point, if your strategy is to explore a share sale or a trade and asset sale, you really do need to consider how valuable you are to the business and take steps to almost devalue yourself from the business, or at least come up with somebody else that can.
Otherwise, it's difficult. You can't sell yourself, can you?
Absolutely.
As easily as a business, if you like. So.
Okay. The second, so that's who are we going to sell to, and very much that point about how valuable you are. So the second point to consider then is the value of the deal that you want to execute. So we've certainly seen deals, multi-million-pound deals, and you hear about them in the press. Professional fees should always be right and proper in what they cost, and they're obviously invaluable to any transaction in terms of covering yourself. As a seller, you want to make sure that you're doing things properly and you're not falling into pitfalls. And
properly exploring the market as well.
Hugely, Hugely. Yeah. I mean, you want to get the best value and the right deal for your business and for you and for any other stakeholders that are still going to be involved going forward. But if the deal value is looking quite minimal, and obviously I don't mean any disrespect in any way, shape or form, but something around £250,000, £500,000, sub-1 million pound sort of deal value, That's where a trade and asset deal might become more attractive because it can be done in more simplified format, less due diligence required, perhaps because the company is still going to sit there once the trade and assets have moved out, i.e. any liabilities that are remaining stay with the company, so the purchaser can relax a little bit in the sense that they've got more visibility over exactly what they are
They're
buying.
cherry picking
Effectively
the assets, aren't they, without any risk?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you don't want to end up in a scenario where your professional fees exceed your deal value. For a really obvious example, but a more subtle example is the more professional cost that goes into a transaction, the higher the cost is going to be for obvious reasons, and it's something to be really wary of when considering whether to do a share sale or a trade and asset sale. Sure.
Okay, good. So we've got different routes, a couple of kind of key considerations as to what route you might go for. What's the end? The end game, and all of these situations.
So we go back to the start of the video, and again, this is not a how-to, this is an awareness piece. This is leading up to something. What we'll end up with, whether you take the share sale route or the trade and asset sale route, is you're going to end up with the proceeds of that transaction. Now, if the proceeds of that transaction, it's a shareholder selling their company, they're going to come straight to the shareholder, and you're going to want to take some personal advice, but that kind of kills and ends the matter. But if you've got a holding company which has sold its trading company, you're going to have cash in that holding company. And if you've got a company where you've just sold the trade and assets, you're going to end up with that shell with cash and any other assets that have been excluded from the deal. And you're going to need to deal with that. And for reasons that we spoke about in the first video, and for other reasons we'll talk about through the rest of the series, a lot of it will come down to value. There are, of course, other considerations, but it is in your advantage to consider a solvent liquidation because of tax efficient means to extract the value there.
Okay.
Yeah, that brings us to a nice conclusion.
Excellent. Thank you, Jack. So we've looked at the different ways in which you can extract value. Do we sell shares? Do we sell the business and assets? As you said, planning is massively important, not just to help you with maximizing the value, but making sure that you've got the right structure for tax and other commercial reasons. And there are other wider considerations too. But yeah, very good. Thank you, Jack. Summarised very well. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.